There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of your own thoughts pressing against your chest when everything else falls quiet? Maybe there was a time when the world wanted you to be strong and decisive, but inside, you just wanted to be simple and at ease. Marcus Aurelius lived with those same tides inside him. He was many things the world could measure: emperor, philosopher, leader. But at his core, he was a human longing for stillness. And that longing is a doorway. You don't have to be wise to pass through it. You just have to be here, willing to let something softer settle into your life tonight. Imagine the hush of ancient Rome, marble halls and gardens, but also early morning light that spills in like a quiet blessing. That's where Marcus began, and where we'll walk beside him, not as students, but as fellow travelers, gently pressing forward through the dim, seeking what waits in the silence before daybreak. This story isn't about being great. It's about the gentle art of returning. Every day Marcus woke to uncertainty just as you do. Some mornings he felt strong. Others he carried doubt, old aches, the tremble of dreams he couldn't hold on to. Isn't that familiar? Maybe there are nights when you lie awake, wondering if those small rituals, breathing, hoping, remembering, make any difference at all. They do. Marcus Aurelius found his path in those very moments. Tonight we'll drift through his life in a rhythm that is neither rushed nor forced. I'll be here, walking quietly beside you, not to teach, but to witness, to invite you into a space where story and silence meet until you feel your own breath become softer, your heart become less defended, your mind open just a little more to the peace you already hold. As you listen, you might notice yourself letting go, layer by layer. The old stories, the tension in things left unsaid, the weight of what tomorrow asks. That's what Marcus did each dawn before the world awoke. He sat with himself, with his questions, and gently began the day with a few words that would anchor his soul. If you ever wonder if stillness is possible for you, even surrounded by noise, chaos, unending expectation, remember that Marcus wondered too. Peace is not for the perfect. It's for those who, despite everything, are willing to return home to themselves again and again. So tonight, let this be invitation, not instruction. Let it be a lantern in the dusk, not a lesson on a page. If you came here weary, curious, or simply hoping for a night's rest, you're already enough. There is brilliance in your ordinary life. There's wisdom folded up in your quietest thoughts. If you let the night take you, perhaps you'll drift off carrying a little more ease, a little more courage, and the gentle remembrance that all the light you seek is not somewhere else. It is always returning, already waking. In you there are stories that change your mind, and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight, on the modern mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt like the morning brought a new promise, but by evening the world's noise took it away? Maybe there was a moment when you wished for stillness, for something unbreakable inside. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace once felt too. Imagine the world silent except for your breath, the first rays of sun touching cold stone, the heaviness of responsibility sitting with you before the day even begins. Marcus knew this feeling almost every morning, not as an emperor or a philosopher, just as a human waking up, questioning how to greet the day. The world he lived in was not gentle. Rome was big, loud, and full of demands. Yet Marcus would rise early, finding a breath of quiet before the city started to stir. He didn't know the answers. He wasn't sure what peace really was. But every morning he showed up for those questions, and every evening he searched for the feeling that he was real, grounded, alive inside all the chaos. Tonight, you're not here to study. You're here to meet someone who once carried the same longings you carry, for meaning, purpose, maybe just a little comfort as the day ends. Marcus Aurelius's story is not about perfection or wisdom handed down like a rule book. It's about a quiet practice, repeated gently, finding small moments of clarity and breathing them in. He left behind his thoughts not to be famous, not to teach, just to remember his own light over and over between sunrise and sunset. If you've ever woken up unsure or gone to bed hoping for peace, you're in good company. Maybe, as you listen tonight, you'll notice how his story becomes your breath, your pause, your reminder that the sacred can live in the most ordinary mornings and the softest part of evening. So let's settle in together. Let the story unfold as a soft lamp in the dark. There is no need to remember every word. Just notice where the echoes land. Notice the moments that feel like breath, like reflection, or like a gentle nudge toward your own peace. This isn't just a story about a wise man in ancient Rome. It's the story of your own stillness, waking up inside you and finding, at last, a little room to breathe. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of early morning? That hush before the world moves, when your own mind feels like a gentle storm. Maybe there was a time when you woke before dawn, hoping for a sense of calm. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace once felt too. He lived in a world of noise, of expectations, a world that demanded presence while stealing it away, moment by moment. Imagine the silence before the city stirred, the stars fading, and a single person awake, waiting for peace to arise. Marcus knew these mornings. He met them at the window in the cool air, with thoughts still soft from the night before. He wasn't born into quiet or certainty. He came into a world where responsibility grew faster than hope, where every gentle longing met with a sharper fear. There are things we inherit without knowing, doubts, dreams, even the way we breathe. For Marcus, that meant being carried along the current of someone else's story, until one day the current became his own. If you pause and breathe here with me, you can feel it, the way he must have paused, gathering the edges of his thoughts, collecting himself before he belonged to the world outside his room. His eyes opened to the gray dawn, to the lessons that had no words yet. There is a kind of sacred loneliness in the child who sees the world too clearly, who notices the lines in every adult face, who hears the urgency in voices that talk past each other. Maybe you know what that's like. The subtle ache beneath every surface, the longing to find stillness that feels real. Marcus grew up with all the trappings of status, rooms filled with tapestries, gardens cut by stone, the sound of sandals on marble. But inside a quieter longing, the wish for a peace he could carry, not just receive. That's our invitation tonight, to travel inward, not back in time, but beneath time, to walk with Marcus each step, from the freshness of early life, through the sparks that kindled his inner fire, across the shadows of struggle, into the light of real, lived wisdom. This isn't just his biography. It might be yours, too, so settle in. Let your breath soften. There's space for you here, inside this story about peace, longing, morning reflections for evening peace, for Marcus, and for you. Let's begin. He came into the world under grey Roman skies, the city still waking to the day. Marble columns, olive groves, a quiet that lingered between the shifting light and the city's soft animal breath. Marcus was just a boy when he first noticed the weight in the air. Palace halls, voices echoing through tall rooms, slippered footsteps. He was surrounded by opulence he could hardly name. But there, in the middle of it all, was a child's longing, not for more, but for meaning. There's a kind of solitude that comes from growing up surrounded, so many eyes, so few who truly see. Marcus learned to listen before he spoke. He'd watch the way the adults moved, their voices carrying secrets he only partly understood. His mother's hands, beautiful and tired, always guiding, never holding too tight. His grandfather, stoic, a stone beside the family's river, carving a presence that Marcus would grow to both revere and question. Even as a young boy, he'd wake before the others. The early light would find him staring out the courtyard window, his breath fogging the cool pane. All around, Rome would begin to stretch and yawn, the world's great engines starting up. Marcus traced shapes in the condensation, losing himself in simple, silent games that grounded his spirit. The palace felt less like home and more like a waiting room before the world pressed in. He began to notice that his real home wasn't in the marble or the finery, but in these still, quiet moments. Pain visited him, even then, small aches, the kind a lonely child feels when no one else is awake. He noticed when his mother's smile faded too quickly, when the guard's eyes dimmed, when the night came and brought a different kind of hush. Marcus began to sense that something was missing, a quiet assurance, a certainty that life was more than duty. There were days when it all felt too heavy. The expectations of his birth shaped every movement, every pause. But in the stillness he found brightness, thin threads of hope that wove through the dullness like early sunlight through shutters. He'd sit in the garden, hands in the dirt, listening to the hush between the wind's breaths. Even as the world bustled beyond the gates, Marcus found a strange comfort in the rhythm of his own inhaling and exhaling. Have you ever felt that? Caught between worlds, craving the world within? Marcus Aurelius began there, longing not for escape, but for a deeper way to belong, not just to his family or his fate, but to himself. His story began with that longing, not to be seen, not even to be known, but simply to be, a presence unmoved by the swirling chaos around him. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of your own thoughts just before sleep grabs you? Maybe there was a time when uncertainty pressed on your chest, even if the world outside saw you as steady. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius once felt too. Marcus was known to the world as a Roman emperor, a philosopher, a stoic, but that's the surface. Think of someone sitting alone, early in the morning, before anyone calls his name or asks what must be done. In that hush, he faces the gentle ache that lives under every decision, the longing to be good, the yearning for simplicity in a life that isn't simple. That's where we start. With your head resting on your pillow, let's drift with Marcus past the marble halls and the politics and the battles and into the real journey. The one inside, if you've ever wondered if peace can be found when the world pulls you in 1,000 directions, if you've ever searched for clarity among the noise of your own mind, if you've longed for the calm center that never leaves you, no matter what chaos moves around you tonight, you might find something. Imagine for a moment. You're lying down, eyes soft in the dim light. The city outside has gone quiet. The only thing moving now is your breath, slow and low. In this space, Marcus is not a statue. He's someone reaching across centuries, whispering truth that could belong to anyone willing to listen. His story is not grand. It's gentle and it's real. He wasn't always wise. He wasn't always calm. There were nights when his mind spun restless, just like yours. Mornings when he questioned if he could face another day, if his inner voice could ever be a friend. And yet Marcus learned to begin each morning with cleared sight. He learned to let go of resistance, to breathe into acceptance. He found how to live with purpose not by ruling an empire, but by mastering the silence within himself. That's what we're here for tonight. You're not alone in your longing. Maybe you sense the tension in your shoulders, or maybe your heart aches with the residue of undone things. This story is your mirror. It's your invitation. Let your breath settle. Let your thoughts drift. Let Marcus's journey become a night walk into your own hidden wisdom. There are no right ways or wrong ways to listen. You can let the words shape dreams, or let them fall softly behind your own thoughts as you drift. Know this: presence can be found in the hush between thoughts. Peace can be traced in the echo of each breath. Meaning is always waiting on the other side of gentle attention. So let the world grow quiet for a while. Let worries slide off your chest. You are here. This is the only moment that matters. And now, together, we walk into the quiet morning of Marcus's life. There are stories that change your mind, and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt like the world moves too fast, like your thoughts won't quiet down? Maybe there was a morning where you needed the sunrise to mean something, or a night when you craved silence more than sound. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace once felt too. So take a breath with me. Let's let those thoughts slow bit by bit. Feel the weight of your body, the gentle motion of your chest as you breathe, the quiet pulse in your hands. You're here now. We're together, drifting through the layers of night, through the shimmering edges of story and memory, and something light that wants to breathe with you. You may know the name Marcus Aurelius. Maybe you remember distant history lessons, old statues, words echoing like stone. But that's not who we meet tonight. Tonight, we meet the soul. We walk with the little boy who blinked at dawn, wondering why he woke with loneliness. We stand beside the young man, barely taller than the reeds, searching for a place to plant his questions. We listen for the heartbeat beneath the robes, beneath the crown, beneath the noise of Rome. Because every mystic, even an emperor, is a dreamer before they're remembered, and every dreamer aches for answers that will not leave them. What is peace? How do I live it, not just imagine it? If the world circles with noise and power, is there a way to keep something gentle at the center? When the sun comes up, can I choose to meet it without fear or regret? All these questions, and the quiet hope they hide, live in you too. You may not wear a crown or rule over empires, but you rule over your own breath. You sit atop your world at dusk, just as Marcus did, wondering what morning will bring. So, as you settle deeper, let yourself enter his story, not as an audience, but as a companion. Step quietly, like you're entering a garden gate at dawn. There's no hurry. There's nothing to prove. Here it's safe to feel. Imagine Marcus beside you, not as a hero, but simply as a person reaching for stillness, fighting for meaning in the hush before daybreak, letting the questions wash over him, letting the answers come only as lightly as breath. If you've ever wished for a different kind of quiet, if you've ever tried to start again each morning after the weight of yesterday, if your heart aches for a peace that doesn't flicker away with every news headline or anxious thought, this is your story too. We're not looking for perfection. There's nothing you need to achieve tonight. You don't have to solve every riddle or silence every worry. The invitation here is simply remember who you are beneath the noise. Remember the gentle power that rises with every sunrise, even on the days you feel weakest. As you listen, let your body soften. Let your mind rest in the rhythm of my voice. Let the story show you new ways to wake up, even as you drift to sleep. Feel the presence not just of Marcus Aurelius, but of your own deeper self, the one who waits in the quiet for morning to begin again. Tonight, as you walk through these chapters, I hope you'll find pieces of your longing, your hope, your light, because every mystic story is a bridge. And you are already crossing, breath by breath. Let's begin. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Just let that land for a second. Where you are, right now, tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of responsibility settle onto your shoulders before the day even begins? Maybe there was a time before anyone else was awake when you sat on the edge of your bed and just listened to your own breath, wondering what today will ask of you, if you'll meet it kindly, or if you'll lose yourself to the world again. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius felt too. Breathe in and out. Picture a quiet room, somewhere before dawn, shadows stretching long over the stone floor. There's someone sitting there alone, just like you. This story lives in that pause. Between darkness and first light, the soft hum of questions without answers, a dialogue between heart and world. Maybe you think of Marcus Aurelius as a marble statue, stern and cold, an emperor, ruler of men, author of meditations that have survived centuries. But tonight, let's let those images soften. Think instead of a friend you might have known, someone who worried, who doubted, who felt the world's weight and still found fragments of peace before anyone else was listening. And maybe you too have wondered, late at night or in the raw light of morning, is there a way to greet the chaos of life with a quieter mind? To hold on to yourself, even when all the noise swirls around you, to shape the day from the inside out, with nothing but a breath and the intention to begin again. Tonight, we walk together, through memory, through stillness, through one man's search for something unwavering inside himself. This isn't a bedtime story for your mind. It's a gentle reflection for your spirit, a slow unveiling of presence, just as real for you as it was for him. Let the world fall away for now. Sink deeper into your bed, into the quiet of your own room, and let's begin with the wonder that started it all. He was not born to be extraordinary. He was just a child in a world that demanded much. But he learned, breath by breath, that greatness is not what others see. It's what you keep when you close your eyes and feel your own aliveness, even if only for a moment. As we step into the story of Marcus Aurelius together, you might find the echo of your own longings, your own gentle hopes, all the spaces in you that have wished for morning clarity and evening peace. Stay here with me. Let's see where this night will carry us. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight, on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. All those old marble busts and faded pages are set aside. It's just you, the night, and the hidden presence of a soul who learned to steady his mind like the sunrise, no matter what storms howled around him. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, if there's ever been a night where your thoughts spun in circles or your heart asked quietly, "Is there more to this?" their story may become your own. Maybe you've wondered what it would feel like to close your eyes and have each moment meet you softly, like warm sunlight through the curtains. Maybe you've hoped a gentle answer would come, or that the tension in your chest might ease. Have you ever felt restless in your own skin, wishing for a pause, a breath, a steadiness? Maybe there was a time when the world asked too much, days when you wanted to trust your heart, but life pulled you in every direction. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius felt too. The stone emperor in books was a son, a dreamer, a person learning to listen through his own noise. His questions are your questions. His watching the sky each morning wasn't just ritual, it was survival, a quiet searching for light. So tonight, as you sink into your covers, think of this not as a lesson, but as a walk. Each chapter is a step beside someone who wrestled with the same quiet worries you carry, someone who met power and pain, and learned to open his day with steadiness so he could offer the world peace by nightfall. The world remembers him as a ruler, but maybe what matters most is the human behind the rules. So let your breath slow. Let the story find you here. There's nothing to solve, nowhere to get to. Only an invitation to feel how someone ordinary, wrapped inside duty and demand, chose to find an extraordinary inner stillness, morning by morning, that glows, even now, at the edge of sleep. He was born small, you know, unassuming, nothing like the heroes painted in stories, and raised beneath Roman skies clouded by the rumble of ambition. The world outside was built on noise, movement, plans. But for Marcus, the earliest wonder lived inside silence. He learned to watch, not just to follow. Sometimes his greatest curiosity wasn't about glory or winning, but about why his heart felt lighter during quiet moments than grand ones. His home was filled with books, odd smells of old parchment, and the shadow of people expecting everything from him. But even as a child in this current of expectation, there was always a little pause before he answered, a little question mark flickering in his chest. Why so much hurry? Why all these roles to play? Often he sat near the window after sunset and let the world soften. Have you ever done that? Just sat and watched as night arrives, hoping something gentle would meet you in the hush. For Marcus, each morning was another lesson. The city would wake, sometimes noisy, sometimes dull, but the sky offered peace in its rhythms. And as he grew, that longing for simplicity, for something true, pressed deeper. He hated when adults forgot to listen. He wondered if maybe everyone was moving too fast to notice the light changing across their walls. He became a collector of tiny revelations. The way a morning breeze calls through a cracked door, the way he could inhale and feel his body settle when nothing else made sense. Maybe, he thought, there's another way to live. Not harder, not richer, just clearer. Maybe by listening first, stepping softly, lighting a flame inside that never flickers, no matter how wild the wind outside gets. By now, you're drifting close. The story folds around you, not as an old legend, but as a hand on your shoulder, gentle, steady, saying, tonight is the beginning of a softer walk. You're invited, just as Marcus was, to begin again with the next breath, to let each word remind you peace is always waiting, no matter how loud the world becomes. He learned the feel of loneliness early. Not the kind that wails, the kind that settles in, soft and secret. The palace was both open and suffocating, rooms echoing with other people's plans. In those spaces, Marcus built invisible worlds to hide inside. He imagined what it'd feel like to live as simply as one of the gardeners. Sometimes he watched the older servants drinking in the dawn with slow, thankful faces, and noticed, in their easy laughter, a freedom far beyond wealth or title. Marcus was always waiting for his own kind of awakening, one that didn't come with music or applause, but with a slow, inward yes. He wanted life to make sense, not just be impressive. Yet the world told him to prepare, to harden, to become what it demanded. Isn't that sometimes how it feels in our world too? Growing up in spaces where every breath seems accounted for, every dream measured. He felt the weight, but even then he held a space for hope, a place where sunrise could wash everything bare, if only he'd trust its light. Just like you, Marcus woke some mornings wondering who he was really meant to be. Some mornings he prayed without words for the discomfort to become understanding. Sleep was his sanctuary, mornings his beginning. In those fragile waking moments, he listened for a different song. The questions he asked then are still with us. How do I find peace when the world is louder than my pulse? How do I serve others without losing myself? Is there a way to have power but walk gently, like the gardeners greeting the day with nothing but gratitude? If you've ever felt the ache of that longing, the quiet space where you hope meaning will grow, Marcus did too. And sometimes what fills that space is not a grand answer, but a softer kind of presence, a slow, deep knowing that something morning soft waits within us, leading us to peace, if only we choose to wake to it. Let the story unfold and find you where you rest. Marcus's morning reflections might just settle through the evening, till you, too, remember how quietly a new world can begin. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the crush of a day that just wouldn't let up? Or maybe there was a time when you woke up already tired, already racing some invisible clock. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace once felt too. In the hush you've made for yourself tonight, there's a thread that runs back, not through dusty history books or stained marble heads, but into the soft spot just beyond your last thought, the space before the next breath. Here, Marcus isn't that Roman emperor you half remember from school, or the statue with a tired, stony face. He's closer than you think, the watcher inside, quietly hoping you might find a little stillness, a little sense beneath the weight of it all. Maybe you, too, carry that feeling of wanting to set something down, that subtle ache for a break from striving, a longing to remember what it's all for. Even as the world hums on outside your window, Marcus Aurelius carried those questions too. Every morning the world would wake him early with news from every corner, problems to fix, judgments to make, more campaigns, more challenges. But in those hours before dawn, he tried something different. Instead of armoring up and pushing on, he'd sit with his notebook. He'd whisper to himself, not with pride or power, but with the kind of gentle honesty you save for the middle of the night. His morning was, quietly, the start of every evening's peace. The way you get ready to wake shapes the way you rest. The way you meet even 1 hour echoes through the dark. Tonight, that echo is for you. Stay for a little while. Let your breathing slow as the story spreads its gentle roots through you. You don't need to force anything here. No teaching, no test. Just one calm presence walking with you in your half-lit room, letting Marcus Aurelius be, maybe, the quietest friend you never knew you had. Let's let go together. Breathe. Marcus was born into a Rome that glittered on the outside, but hummed with anxiety just beneath. Even as a boy, he was taught how important his life might someday be. Their family had connections, expectations, reminders that every step mattered. The nights in Rome buzzed with the far-off songs of parties, the gossip, the goals. But in the quieter hours, Marcus felt something different, a wanting that pressed through all of it. He would lie awake after the world had finished asking things of him, feeling the thinness of his body against the mattress and the even thinner silence under the ceiling. Sometimes he could almost hear his own thoughts, small as crickets, nervous and alive. The city was so restless, always stretching toward something, but inside Marcus there was a confused sense that nothing out there would ever really be enough. He wanted to know what made people steady, what kept them together, even when everything else seemed to scatter. He saw his mother try so hard to hold the family together after his father died. He noticed his grandfather's dignified, careful movements and wondered if that calmness was a mask or the real thing. He watched the way grown-ups kept secrets inside their glances at dinner, how people praised him for being serious. Sometimes that felt like a compliment, sometimes like a cage. Marcus learned quickly how to play his part, how to look like the kind of boy Rome expected. But alone in his space, he would search for something that didn't ask for performance, a kind of permission to just be. He wondered what it would mean to not always be in training for something. There were books everywhere in the house, scrolls with wisdom tucked between the pages. At first, they felt heavy, out of reach, words from people too long gone to answer. But when the world quieted, that hour just before sunrise, Marcus started to open them. He would run his finger along a sentence, trying to let the meaning find him, not the other way around. He was searching for what he later called a quiet mind. Even then, before power or politics, he found pieces of stillness between the lines. Marcus watched animals in the courtyard, how simply they lived, how they didn't seem bothered by the troubles that filled his head. Maybe I was meant to feel this much, he wondered. Or maybe I'm missing something simple. He ached for belonging, but felt it most in moments when nobody needed him to be anything in particular. In those gaps, a kind of early longing took root, not just for answers, but for a way of living that felt less fractured. The older Marcus would call it alignment, but as a boy, he just wanted to feel at home, in his body, in his mornings, in his breath. Sometimes, even Rome felt lonely, too loud and too large to ever truly keep him steady. But every longing has its own kind of pulse. For Marcus, it was the beginning of something deeper. One morning, not so different from any other, Marcus felt a shift. The sunlight came soft and slow through his window, but he stayed still, refusing to move until he could feel where he ended and the day was about to begin. In that pause, there was a spark, a small, stubborn sense that maybe peace wasn't waiting out there, but was already yawning awake inside him. It was the first morning he made peace his companion, and not just his goal, it would change everything. There are stories that change your mind, and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of the morning before you even opened your eyes? Maybe there was a time when everything in the world felt loud, but somewhere inside you there was a softer longing, the kind of longing that whispers, there's more here, more beneath the noise, more inside you waiting to be met. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius felt too. Emperor, philosopher, dreamer. But he was also that silent part of you that knows how heavy the day can be, how much it matters to simply breathe, to belong to yourself, to remember morning even when it's night. This isn't just about remembering someone who lived thousands of years ago. It's about remembering you, your own mornings, your quiet hopes as you get ready for the day or as you get ready to surrender to rest. Sometimes it's not about finding answers, but about finding deeper questions, questions that open the heart the way sunlight opens the blinds. Marcus lived in those spaces, the gaps between thoughts, the quiet beneath the city noise, the pause before the world asks anything of you. Tonight, we're invited in, not to study or explain, but to settle, to find your own rhythm in his reflections and realize that whatever peace he found in the sunrise, you can fold into your own dusk. Let's stay here together, letting each breath carry the story deeper. Let every word remind you, this path, this peace, this search, it might just be yours too. So before you drift, before your inner world settles back home, let's stand on the edge of day and night and listen for the soft truth of a life fully lived. Let the world fall away. Let presence become your only companion. We'll walk with Marcus, one gentle moment at a time, morning lessons for evening peace, until you find yourself alone with your breath, and somehow no longer alone at all. There are stories that change your mind, and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the pressure of mourning, the kind that leans on your chest before you even get out of bed? Maybe there was a time when your thoughts raced full of things you have to do, things you haven't done. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius' morning reflections for evening peace once felt too. Even in ancient Rome, even as an emperor, mornings came heavy and soft. Let me invite you right now to rest back, to let this story roll over you like a slow tide. You don't have to think. This isn't about learning, but remembering. The air around you is quiet. Maybe tonight your mind is tangled or your heart is racing. Or maybe you already feel a deep calm beginning to flow through you. Either way, presence is a door, and you are welcome here,